You know that feeling, right? That sharp, unexpected sting when criticism comes not from a stranger, but someone you deeply love.
Mm-hmm.
Your parent, a sibling, your partner, maybe even your own child.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be your biggest cheerleaders, you know?
Yeah.
Yet sometimes they become your most brutal critics,
Yeah.
offering that unvarnished, unsweetened criticism, as one source called it,
Oof, yeah.
about anything. Your clothes, your career choices. Why does it wound so much more coming from them?
Yeah.
And how on earth can you navigate it without, like, wrecking your relationships or just losing your mind?
It's a truly universal thing, isn't it? And often really painful. So today we're taking a deep dive into this whole complex world. Criticism from loved ones.
Yeah.
We'll unpack why it hits differently, explore some, well, surprisingly effective ways to respond, and give you some actual concrete strategies, to protect your peace and maybe even strengthen your relationships rather than letting those comments just chip away at them.
Right. So get ready to maybe reframe your whole approach here. We're going beyond just, surviving critical feedback. We want to actually thrive.
Exactly.
So to start, let's explore that paradox. Why does it sting so much more when it's coming from the people closest to us?
Well, it's precisely that paradox of pain you mentioned. The very people we expect, like unconditional support from, can sometimes offer the most hurtful criticism.
Right.
Our sources highlight how uniquely hurtful it is to, say, challenge your life choices or criticize your parenting skills when it comes from those closest to you. There's just this expectation of a different kind of care,
Yeah, safe zone almost.
And when it's not there, it cuts really deep.
And it gets even more complicated, I think, because of our shared history, right?
Oh, definitely.
Intimate relationships, especially with family, they can instantly trigger what some psychologists call our little kid brains.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Those deep, maybe unresolved emotional wounds from childhood, they just get activated.
Yeah. So a seemingly small comment, like, I don't know, a quick negative comment about dinner, how to drive to the store, what to wear.
Totally mundane stuff sometimes.
Right. And suddenly you feel like a 10-year-old once again, reacting by sulking or withdrawing or maybe getting really angry, just like we might have back then.
It's almost like an automatic defense mechanism kicks in.
Totally.
And that long shadow of childhood criticism is a really significant factor here. There's research showing that constant criticism in childhood can actually, rewire the brain's response to everyday life.
Rewire the brain. How so?
It can make people feel setbacks more acutely, and experience less joy from successes. It's almost like their internal reward system gets kind of skewed.
Right.
And this can set them up for an increased risk of depression and anxiety in life. And they often struggle with adult relationships because those old patterns just keep playing out.
That's a pretty heavy concept, the idea of the brain being impacted like that. How does that actually show up? What are the practical everyday signs we might see in an adult who experienced this?
That's a great question because it's often subtle, right? It subtly weaves into so many aspects of life. You might see persistent self-doubt and low self-esteem where they really struggle to trust their own judgment.
Okay.
It can lead to perfectionism where any tiny error feels like this huge confirmation of inadequacy.
Oh, I could see that.
Or constant apologizing, maybe defensiveness, as if they're always bracing for an attack. They might even struggle with social anxiety or have this persistent need for external approval, constantly seeking validation from others because they never truly internalized it themselves.
That deeply impacts how they navigate the world, doesn't it? It makes perfect sense that this would play out in their relationships.
Yeah.
Have you seen powerful real-life examples where this childhood sting kind of continues into adulthood?
Oh, absolutely. Take Trudy, for instance. She shared this story. She sent her daughter to a camp, a really wonderful experience, she thought, but her parents, they criticized it as too expensive and purely for personal gain, convinced it would somehow ruin the experience.
Oh, wow. That's harsh.
Right. And even now, getting a new dog, she dreads telling them because she just knows their comments will try to ruin the experience for her and her family. Their words still have that lasting power, you see.
That's so relatable. And it's not just the big life choices either, is it?
No, not at all.
Dr. Mary Kelly, she's a leadership coach. She shared her personal story about her father, asking her, "Are your books just not that good?" Just because they weren't on the New York Times bestsellers list.
Ouch. Yeah. Even successful individuals deal with this pain, this sting from those closest to them.
It really highlights how deep this stuff goes.
It does. And Aubrey E's story, it's really poignant, brings it into even sharper focus. She wrote about her lifelong struggle with depression and dependent personality disorder, and she traced it back to constant criticism from her parents, even after they had passed away.
Wow. Even after they were gone.
Yeah, these comments can truly, crush your spirit and shape your entire life.
It's truly difficult when those childhood experiences continue to haunt us as adults, affecting how we see ourselves and, well, all our relationships. But here's where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah.
This is where the real power lies.
Yeah.
We can actually start to reclaim our peace.
Yes.
And that journey often begins not with them, but within ourselves. It's about shifting our own lens.
Precisely. And one incredibly powerful strategy is to mentally reframe the criticism. Deep down, you probably know your family likely doesn't think you're, a terrible person.
Right. Hopefully not.
Right. Our sources suggest that often their worry or concern manifests as criticism, even if they don't mean it that way at all. If you can mentally reframe those hurtful words as maybe a sign that your family member really cares about you, it changes everything about how you receive it.
That's such a profound idea.
Yeah.
And it goes even deeper than just caring, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding their underlying motivations.
Exactly. A lot of criticism, or what feels like control from loved ones, is actually driven by their anxiety, not necessarily a desire to bully you or exert power. They want you to do something, often to relieve their anxiety. Think about it. Directives like, be careful on the stairs, or wear a coat.
Yeah, my mom says that all the time.
Right. It often stems from genuine concern, not some deep-seated desire to control you.
Okay, I see that.
And the profound shift happens when you realize their anxiety might be the driver. It instantly helps disarm your own, emotional storm. You're no longer just defending yourself, you're seeing their struggle maybe, and that perspective alone can help you quiet the fire instead of just feeding it more fuel.
So realizing their anxiety is the driving force that really does shift your entire approach in those moments.
Okay, so how does that understanding then translate into the next crucial step? Building resilience. How do we get tougher, I guess?
Well, Joe Hirsch puts it perfectly. Feedback is a constant, resilience is a choice.
I like that.
Yeah. One practical tip is to impose a cool-down period. Just allow that negative feedback to sit for a day or so.
Don't react immediately. Exactly. Let yourself evaluate it with greater calm and clarity once that initial sting wears off. Your emotional brain needs a timeout, basically, to let your logical brain catch up.
Makes sense. And what if you're still struggling to make sense of it after cooling down?
Then you can widen the loop. This means seeking an outsider's perspective.
Okay.
Talk to a trusted friend, maybe another family member who isn't involved. They can provide that much-needed distance and help you separate facts from feelings and find the signal in the noise, as they say.
Find the useful bit, if there is one.
Precisely. And we've seen the shift in action. Remember Kay Hamer's story?
The dog criticism.
Yeah, her parents criticized her dog choices repeatedly. But when she got her second dog, her response was really powerful. She basically reminded them that, as a 40-year-old, I didn't realize I had to inform them of my every life decision.
Oh, for her.
Right. And this clear shift in her stance, this boundary, it ultimately led to them asking all about the dog later. It shows how changing your response can completely change the dynamic.
That's empowering. And Dr. Mary Kelly, the coach we mentioned, she transformed her own approach to her father's critical comments too, didn't she?
She did. She learned to accept his feedback with a calm, "Thank you for your thoughts. I know you mean it in the best possible way."
And
then consciously chose to let it go, not let their thoughts occupy real estate in your head. That's real resilience right there.
Okay, not letting their thoughts occupy real estate in your head. I love that phrase.
It's about knowing you are making good decisions for yourself, and other people's thought, well, they don't have to take up residence in your mind. It's really an act of self-preservation.
Okay, so you've shifted your mindset. You started building resilience. Now, how do you actively, engage or disengage in a healthy way? This is where the art of healthy communication comes in, right? Specifically, assertiveness and boundaries. Finding your voice.
Yes, exactly. Assertiveness isn't just about getting what you want, though. It's kind of the sweet spot, the halfway point between passive and aggressive. It's about expressing your needs clearly and directly, yes, but always respecting others in the process, and that balanced approach. It isn't just polite, it's genuinely the quickest route to minimizing conflict, controlling your own anger better, and ultimately building more positive relationships where everyone's needs have a better chance of being met.
So it's not about pushing others around, but it's also not about being a doormat.
Precisely.
And our sources give us some key techniques here. For example, using I statements. This is a classic one.
Yes, very powerful.
Instead of accusing like, you're such a pig, you frame it from your perspective. When you leave your dishes on the table, I feel frustrated because I don't like the mess, but I don't want to clean it up for you.
Exactly. It expresses your feelings without blame, focusing on your experience. And another thing is focusing on observable facts, not those exaggerated judgments.
Right. So instead of you are always late, which is probably not true anyway.
Right. It's more like you are 20 minutes late and it is the third time this week. Just the facts.
Got it. Factual, less inflammatory.
And remember, how you say it is as important as what you say. Maintain a normal volume, a firm but not aggressive tone. Make eye contact. Stand tall. Your body language really needs to match your words for it to land properly.
Okay, assertiveness. Now, on to setting healthy boundaries. You hear this term a lot. What does it actually mean in this context? They aren't walls that separate you.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. Boundaries are actually an important ingredient in healthy, balanced relationships. They're crucial for your identity, mental health, and physical well-being. Think of them less like walls and more like a personal force field, maybe?
Oh, okay, a force field. I like that.
And they come in many forms. Physical boundaries, like privacy with your phone. Emotional boundaries, like deciding not to talk about certain sensitive subjects, maybe at work or with certain people. Material or financial boundaries, like having rules about loaning money. And time boundaries, like feeling okay declining an invite if you need to recuperate.
Okay, different type.
Yeah. And it's really important to remember they're not etched in stone. They should shift and adapt as relationships evolve, reflecting your changing needs and the situation.
So how do you set them effectively? Where do you start?
First, you have to know what you want. Really reflect on your values and figure out what behaviors genuinely bother you or feel like an overstep in your relationships.
Okay, self-reflection first.
Then communicate clearly. Choose calm moments for these discussions, not the heat of an argument. Be prepared, maybe even jot down some points. Use those I statements we talked about and be specific.
Specificity is key.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For example, I feel disrespected and uncomfortable when you come into my room unannounced. Please knock before entering. Not just a vague, I'd like more personal space. What does that even mean?
Right. Needs to be actionable.
And finally, you have to enforce with care. If a boundary is crossed, calmly restate your needs. Have clear and reasonable consequences in mind. And crucially, only state consequences that you're willing to enforce.
Ah, that's the hard part, isn't it? The follow-through.
It is. Because if you're not willing to follow through, the other person learns pretty quickly that your boundary doesn't actually mean much.
Okay, this brings us to a really powerful practical application. Some call it the protective boundary process. Let's walk through that common scenario again. You come home late, your partner immediately launches into, you're late, you couldn't think about me and the impacts on me, you are so selfish. What do you do right then?
Okay, in that really intense moment, before you react, the very first move is internal. Self-compassion.
Okay.
Connect with how you're feeling in your body, maybe tight chest, racing heart. Name the feeling. Then quickly try to disarm any internal self-criticism that pops up, like I am a bad partner. Offer yourself that warm, loving presence a best friend would give you.
So soothe yourself first.
Yes. And crucially, while you hear their feedback, try to discern the factual truth. Okay, I was late from what we might call the pain talk.
Pain talk.
Yeah, the exaggerations, the judgments, like calling you selfish. Acknowledge the fact. Let the pain talk kind of wash over you without hooking you in.
Okay, separate fact from pain talk.
Right. This internal centering then empowers you to choose your response more consciously. Maybe something like, honey, I hear you. I think I get it. Would you be willing to listen to me for a minute?
So you stabilize the immediate situation first, and then the really important question. When do you address their pain talk or that unbridled emotion?
You generally do that later, when there is more ease and connection between you two.
Got it.
First, calm the waters, get regulated yourself, then address the underlying dynamic or the way they express themselves, if needed.
Okay. This internal mastery and grounded response we just discussed, that really sets the stage for healing relationships, doesn't it? Through confrontation and connection. Because ironically, one of the most powerful tools isn't about winning an argument.
No, definitely not. It's validation. Winning by forcing someone to admit they're wrong, it often just humiliates and belittles the other person. It really damages the relationship fabric.
Right. Instead, effective validation is the quickest way to calm their anger, make your perspective heard, resolve the issue, and even, get this, come out of the argument with a stronger relationship.
It sounds counterintuitive, maybe, but it works. And crucially, I hear you does not mean I agree with you.
That's a key distinction.
It means, okay, I understand why you might think that, given your background or the limited information you had or your emotional state right now. Most reactions, even the ones that seem totally irrational on the surface, make perfect sense once you truly understand where that person is coming from.
Okay, so let's get practical. The validation toolkit in a step-by-step argument. What's step one?
First, and this is maybe the hardest part, hear them out. Just listen.
Bite your tongue?
Yes. If you can hold back your counter-arguments long enough to allow the other person to finish out their point, it's often so unexpected that they naturally soften their walls a bit.
Okay, hear them out. Then what?
Then ask clarifying questions to genuinely try and understand their perspective. Things like, why do you say that? Or does this have something to do with X? Show you're trying to get it.
Okay. Understand first.
Then, step 3, own up to what you can. Find any bits of truth in their accusations, even small ones, and acknowledge them. You know what? I haven't been home much lately. You're absolutely right about that.
Even if you don't agree with the whole accusation.
Exactly. And if there's
Yeah.
really no factual truth you can find, validate their feelings. Wow, it sounds like taking care of the kids all afternoon was really overwhelming for you.
Okay. Validate the feeling, if not the fact.
Right. And here's a simple but super powerful tip. Use and, not but.
The classic but erasure.
Exactly. But just negates everything you said before and preserves respect. So it's, I haven't been home much lately. You're absolutely right. And I absolutely care about you and the kids. See the difference.
Huge difference.
Okay.
Okay. So you've heard them clarified, owned what you can, used and, then what?
Then, once they feel truly heard and validated, you make your point. They're going to be far more likely to be open to your side of the story at this stage.
Because their defenses are down.
Exactly. And as a bonus, validate again at the end. A statement like, thank you for saying something. These conversations are never easy, so I appreciate you speaking up, can be incredibly healing and relationship affirming.
Wow. That's a really powerful toolkit.
These strategies, they really highlight that arguments are normal, right? Even healthy in relationships. But the goal is always to resolve them with love and care.
Yeah. And one key learning from the stories we looked at is to be prompt and present. Face-to-face communication for serious stuff is just vital. Text loses all that crucial tone, body language, eye contact.
So true. So much gets lost in translation. And it's okay to take a hot potato break sometimes, if things get too heated.
Pause the argument.
Yeah, take a breather to cool down. But, and this is critical, always commit to resuming the conversation later, ideally before going to bed angry, if possible. Don't just shelve it, because that unresolved tension will just fester and poison the relationship.
Right. Address it, don't avoid it.
And healthy communication, it just requires that solid baseline of respect and regard, assuming the best of your partner, usually, and focusing on not trying to decide who is right or wrong, but how to solve the problem together.
It's a team effort, ideally.
Yeah. And that means addressing issues honestly when they start to become a problem, rather than doing that whole hinting and tiptoeing around thing until resentment builds up into a huge explosion.
Been there, done that. Not effective.
Nope. And finally, accountability and apology are crucial. Taking appropriate responsibility for your part in conflicts and being genuinely willing to apologize sincerely when you mess up.
Okay. So moving beyond individual interactions for a moment, we also need to recognize sometimes there are more insidious patterns at play, like gaslighting in families.
Yes, this is important to touch on. Gaslighting is described as a systematic effort by one or more family members to undermine others' perception of reality.
That sounds really damaging.
It is. And it often links back to generational patterns of abuse. Sometimes it can even be masked as traditional discipline or framed as tough love.
Ugh, that's a chilling thought. What are some key signs of gaslighting that listeners should maybe be aware of?
Well, key signs often include the consistent denial of your experience. That never happened. You're imagining things. Creating subtle memory discrepancies. You remember it wrong. And being unfairly blamed for others' actions or feelings.
Okay. What can someone do if they suspect this is happening?
To confront it and hopefully break the cycle, some practical steps include documenting incidents, just keeping a record for yourself. Seeking external support is huge, therapists, support groups, and educating yourself and maybe others you trust about gaslighting just to understand it for what it is.
Knowledge is power there.
Definitely. Ultimately, the goal is always to try and promote healthy family dynamics. Encouraging open communication where everyone feels safe enough to express emotions, setting and maintaining those clear boundaries we talked about, and consistently fostering emotional validation within the family system, if possible.
It's about creating a healthier environment overall.
Exactly. And this really brings us to the ultimate choice, doesn't it? While you don't get to choose the criticism you receive, especially from family, you always get to choose where it goes.
Okay.
We can control our responses to their comments. We can decide that we will accept them as they are, perhaps, meaning the person, not necessarily the criticism itself. It's about making good choices about where you direct your precious energy. And sometimes that means setting firm time and emotional boundaries, even with difficult or toxic individuals, if necessary for your own well-being.
Right. You control your response, your energy, your boundaries.
That's where your power lies.
Okay. Wow. We've definitely navigated some complex terrain here. Criticism from loved ones, from understanding its deep impact and how to reframe our perception, to mastering assertive communication and setting healthy boundaries, and finally, recognizing and maybe breaking harmful patterns like gaslighting. This deep dive has really offered a kind of roadmap, hasn't it, to protecting your well-being.
I hope so. And I think the true power, the real takeaway, lies not in trying to silence the critics, because you often can't. It's in cultivating that unwavering internal resilience and consciously choosing how you respond.
Yeah.
It's about protecting your emotional real estate, as we said, and fostering relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, even when differences inevitably arise.
So here's something to consider as we wrap up. How might intentionally practicing just one of these healthy responses to criticism this week, maybe the I statement, maybe the cool down period, maybe validation, how might that transform a challenging interaction, not just for you, but for the whole dynamic of that relationship?
That's a great question to ponder. What if their criticism, met with your more empowered, boundary-aware response, actually becomes an unexpected catalyst for growth? Maybe not just for you, but for everyone involved.
Food for thought.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this exploration empowers you to navigate criticism with a bit more grace, strength, and, importantly, self-compassion.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining.